Hello Internet, and welcome to the 23rd episode of Razael, Trove. In this episode, I'll be talking about Aveh and Kislev and their ongoing war. The kingdom of Aveh was formed around 500 years ago by Rani Fatima, a hero from the Great War. Rani was one of the few humans who survived the Day of Collapse. When he founded Aveh, his Omnigir Indvari was sealed inside of Fort Jasper. Fort Jasper can be found nearby the Cathedral of the Nissan Orthodox, and is made of the remains of the Eldridge. The secret of Fort Jasper's existence was held only by the king and his descendants. 12 years ago, Minister Shakan caused a coup d'etat in Aveh. He systematically tortured each member of the royal family, starting with Edbart IV, in order to learn about the Fatima Jasper. Before Shakan could get this information, however, Edbart IV and the incumbent Nissan mother Elvira committed suicide. This left Bartholomew and Marge as the last legitimate members of the Fatima dynasty. The two of them were imprisoned, but shortly after, Edbart's former retainer Mason, alongside Sigurd, rescued them. In their escape, the group stole the Yggdrasil from Aveh. After this, Bart swore to get his revenge on Shakan and fulfill his father's wish of establishing Aveh as a republic. Going after the Fatima Jasper wasn't the only thing that Shakan did after seizing control of Aveh. Despite the fact that Aveh was losing its war with Kislev, Edbart was negotiating with them and nearly had established peace. Being of the Athos Church, and thus under Solaris, Shakan was intended to perpetuate the war long enough for Deus' resurrection. Just a year after Shakan's rise to power, Gebler established an alliance with Aveh, swinging the war they were once losing into the opposite direction. Despite their bitter conflict, Kislev shares a founder with Aveh. When the Great War ended, Rani Fatima brought the remains of the Yggdrasil fort to Nordtun, having it repaired. Rani wanted to prepare the surface for an inevitable war with Solaris in the future. Over the years of the ship's restoration, a town formed around it, and then soon a city, and then a nation. Solaris noticed this small nation forming and decided to establish an organization to monitor it. This organization was the Athos Church, and its purpose was to work with Kislev's government through the committee. While the committee doesn't have any legal say in Kislev, they are central to the function of the country. Battling is the central pillar of Kislev's economy, thus if Sigmund were to drive them out, he would also cause his country to collapse. The committee not only manages the battling, but collects data on the participants, which is sent to the Athos. Recently, the committee has gained even more influence in the governing council. Using their power, they stirred up anti-demi-human racism, causing the diverse nation of Kislev to be weakened. Their plan was to use this to overthrow Sigmund, however, the plan did not entirely work, leading the two groups to a standstill. There is a third force involved with Kislev, separate from both the committee and Sigmund. This individual is the enigmatic executioner. After Solaris' Gebler forces had aligned themselves with Aveh, the war was sent out of balance far too much. In order to counteract this, the executioner, who in actuality is Maya, offered Sigmund aid. Kislev was lent Veltal and used it to jump ahead in technology. Maya also gives Kislev a gatekeeper, after which they constructed the Goliath. With this, Maya equalized the power between Kislev and Aveh, ensuring a perpetual war. The war between the two nations of Aveh and Kislev started about 300 years ago. At this point, both countries had equal power, and the war was very stagnant. In order for one of them to pull ahead, each country began excavating ruins all around Ignis, in hope of finding weapons powerful enough to take each other down. Massive leaps of technology occurred in both nations, as well as a better understanding of past cultures. However, since Nordtun was built on top of an ancient battlefield, they had access to more technology than Aveh, eventually leading to them pulling ahead in the war. In 9985, King Edbart IV sought to bring peace to the two nations, and over the course of the next few years, was very close to achieving his goals. However, in 9987, Shakan started a coup, killing most of Aveh's royal family. This resulted in the termination of peace deals, and the war erupted once again. This time, however, Aveh was leading, as they were receiving aid from Gebler. In 9988, construction of the Gebler base in Bladevik was completed, and Aveh initiates a full-scale invasion of Kislev. When the war between the nations of Ignis started, gears were entirely unknown to the surface dwellers. This is because Solaris implanted limiters on the survivors after the Day of Collapse. Eventually, this resulted in the fading of the knowledge of gears from existence on the surface. When the first gears were unearthed, they went entirely unused for more understood weaponry. This lasted for hundreds of years, until just around 20 years ago when gears began to become common in combat. This not only meant that the nations had been powered up significantly, but fights over these ruins became even more fierce due to more technological potential. The Gebler forces that aid Aveh are primarily gears. In total, Gebler makes up 28% of Aveh's military force. Aveh significantly benefited from this, as the desert not only proved difficult to excavate from, but they also had very few engineers who could repair the salvaged mechs. When Gebler aligned with Aveh, however, gears became their primary force, as Loras not only had set their own, but also their engineers. In response to the increase of gear usage by Aveh, Kislev began to focus on weapons especially good at destroying gears. With all of this conflict, the only true winner was Solaris. Not only do they not have to worry about an uprising from the surface, but they are also receiving valuable data on the state of humanity. Solaris uses this data for human gene experimentation, which resulted in the creation of demi-humans as well as Vels. The eventual plan is to make humans that can be fully fused with gears and used in System Deus. With all of that, this episode of Razael Trove comes to a close. Please have a wonderful day.